Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of But Is It Feminist? The podcast that supports women's rights and women's wrongs. I am your host, Amanda Hernandez, sociologist by training, hater by nature. I am regretful that my life has amounted to starting a podcast. I feel very silly, very millennial, very late bloomer. I feel like when I think about my friend groups and the people I hang out with and talk with, I've got to be like one of the last people to attempt to have a podcast. So yeah, here I am. Mid to late 30s, starting a podcast. It also feels very masculine, very masculinized, starting a podcast. Podcasting is for the bros, you know? So I guess you could say it's feminist. It's feminist to step into my power and yap like a girl to a microphone. Isn't that weird that podcasting's been like masculinized when it's literally just yapping? Anyway, but that's the point of this show. I want to yap with people who have interesting things to say, things that I think are amusing or funny or interesting. And I want us to try and answer the question, the evergreen question of, but is that feminist? But is it feminist? I have been asking this question long before Katy Perry got launched into space. I reveled. I felt like how a little piggy must feel rolling around in the mud, or like when you let the cat out and they roll around on the concrete in the sun. Just so happy seeing everybody absolutely drag her on the internet after the space launch. Like her floating around with a daisy. Very cute, very cutesy. And everyone was like, absolutely not. This is a woman's wrong. No, ma'am. But I've been asking the question, is it feminist? Long before that, long before she released Woman's World. This was, a few months ago now. I think about the lyrics all the time, which I would like to recite the first few to you now. Sexy, confident, so intelligent. She is heaven sent, so soft, so strong. Please, I need you to just go watch the music video right now. It is wild and confusing, very upsetting. So yeah, I felt very validated after liftoff. The video came out and everyone was, my perception of everyone is rather limited, admittedly, but I perceived that more people were very suspicious, very wary, very skeptical that that was feminism in any way. And like I said, I have been thinking about this question for a long time. I'm talking like Marvel Endgame at the end of the movie. Like, I don't know anything about superheroes. Please do not ask me about Marvel. But like at the end of the movie where it's like all the Avengers or all the superheroes are coming together. And it's like the shot of like all the lady superheroes. I remember my husband looking at me and I was just like rolling my eyes so hard because he knew that it would tick me off. So I've been thinking about it since then. I've been thinking about it since the Dove commercials, Like a Girl. I'm talking about like 2014 VMAs, Beyonce's feminist performance where she had like the TED Talk in the clips of the song, and then she like stands in front of the screen and says feminist. I have not been able to stop thinking about this question for at least like a decade at this point. And so I did what a lot of women in my age bracket have done. I made the mistake of being an anxious overachiever. And then I went and got a PhD about it. LOL at me, big mistake. So my primary area of fascination is the way that these conversations, but is it feminist, show up in religious spaces, and specifically how race and ethnicity shape so much the way that conversation tends to go. For example, the 2017 Women's March, And there were so many think pieces and tweets, RIP Twitter, that came out during that time about like who was the right kind of feminist. And the breakdown of those conversations seemed to mainly be happening along the lines of race and religion. I'm sure we're all passingly familiar with that photo of a Black woman whose name is Angela Peoples standing at the Women's March with a sign that said, "Don't forget, white women voted for Trump." And in the background of the photo is like 3 white blonde women with the pink pussy hats on, texting on their phone, right? An evocative image that sums up a lot of the conversations that were happening then. Angela Peoples went on to write a opinion piece for the New York Times a few months later. And she said, quote, "My message stood in stark contrast to the theme of togetherness that dominated the Women's March, the pink pussy hats and girl power placards and chant about how women would lead the resistance. This was exactly the point. I made the sign to communicate that in a world where 53% of white women voters chose a racist, elitist, sexual predator for president, the idea that we all want the same thing is a myth." End quote. So what do women want? And don't worry, this is not like a manosphere Dude Bro podcast. But these conversations really got me thinking, why are women perceived as a monolith? And by monolith, I mean like that we're all the same. Like women are all just clumped into one category together. And then it made me start thinking about, what is feminism then? What is feminist? And who is feminism even for? And my graduate work culminated with a book I wrote called The Intersectional Identities of Christian Women in the United States, Faith, Race, and Feminism. And for that project, I interviewed over 40 Christian women from all sorts of geographic backgrounds, racial and ethnic backgrounds, to learn about how they think about feminism in their faith. Like, how do they learn to be a woman? What does womanhood mean to them? Where do they get those messages? Do they think that feminism and their faith can go together? Is it contradictory? And in the book, what I end up is making this claim that we have the idea that feminism and religion can't go together, and that's a misconception. And that misconception exists and persists because white feminism and white Christianity are our main ways of thinking about each of those identities. And oh my God, you might be like, "Lady, you're just a few minutes into talking to me. What the fuck is white feminism? That's scary. What is white Christianity?" Well, I'm here to tell you a little bit. So basically, you can think of these as like the really loud, dominant, mainstream forms of each of those identities. So white feminism is feminism that accepts that myth that Angela Peoples talks about, the myth that she says that the idea that all women want the same thing. That's white feminism. It's the myth that all women want the same thing, that we all need the same thing. But the reality is that women are so different from one another. We're not that monolith. Women aren't just women, but white women, Black women, Mexican American women, etc., right? And they're not just Mexican American women, but they have a class status, meaning like, do you have a lot of money or economic power, or do you not have that? What's your citizenship status, your ability status? What's your sexual orientation? All of these different things intersect and come together to shape who we are and the way we navigate the world. This idea is called intersectionality. It comes from Kimberle Crenshaw, but has been talked about in feminist and particularly women of color feminist spaces for a long time. But it's this key idea that we're not just one thing. Our identities are intersectional. Different things come together to make us who we are. And white feminism ignores that. It's just all women are white. All women need the same thing, right? And white Christianity, that is a whole other topic on its own. But you can think of it in like the same way. It's just the loud, dominant form of Christianity that we in the United States are often exposed to, socialized into. It's this idea that to be an American, like a true American in the United States, you have to be Christian. and that you're going to assimilate to white Christian norms. And even if you're not white or you're not Christian, you should be working to assimilate to those things. So this looks like things like school holidays, right? All the Christian holidays are just a given. But if you're from another faith background or faith tradition, those are often like exceptions to what's normal, and normal being Christianity. But the thing that makes it like the white Christianity bit is that you should be actively working to assimilate to that. Like, fuck your background, forget whatever you actually want to do or who you are as a person. Like, if you're in the US, baby, you better act and think and assimilate to this. And that the U.S. should be a Christian nation, which, again, a whole other topic, and I won't go into it too much. But my idea, right, the thing that I'm arguing is that the reality of people's lives, of their lived experiences, is that white feminism, A, is not actually feminism. And white Christianity is not actually Christianity or the only way to live out whatever faith you have, if you fall under that umbrella. People exist as feminist and as Christian outside of that. People exist outside of all those confines. I know I just rambled, but that is actually the oversimplified version of the argument I make in my extremely overpriced academic book. But all of that to say is I have been thinking about feminism a lot. And I love thinking about feminism and talking about feminism to other people. And I want to keep expanding the conversation because my work focuses on like US Christians, but these ideas show up in so many other spaces because feminism is everywhere now. I can go get a t-shirt that says, this is what a feminist looks like, or a stick. I mean, come on, Amanda. I do have a feminist killjoy sticker on my laptop. But feminism is everywhere. It's on our laptop stickers. It's on our TVs, whatever we're streaming, and music and sports. Like, people talk about it so much, but a lot of people come to this question of like, but is that real feminist? Is that actually what feminism is? But is it feminist? Which brings me back to Katy Perry and her friends in outer space. Is it feminist? No. In my professional opinion, it is space tourism rooted in these capitalistic dreams of colonizing the moon and colonizing space. There are lots of really interesting articles out right now. I'll tag a few in the show notes. Oh my God. I feel so silly saying that. But I'll put a few links in the space. And so while I feel like that's a pretty cut and dry example of like, no, that's not actually feminist, I'm hoping to have conversations on this podcast that really get at like the nuanced gray area of like, when is something feminist and like, how can you tell and how do you make those judgments? But in this case, I can offer again that my expert opinion that it's not. Also, Katy, it's not a woman's world, so double not feminist. I feel so bad for dragging on. No, I don't. Okay. Also, okay, you have to go look at the music video. She's like, it opens with her and some of her pals like in denim short shorts, and they're like standing and peeing at the urinal, but I don't think their shorts are down. It's very, very confusing and upsetting. So in But Is It Feminist, the podcast that supports women's rights and women's wrongs, unless it involves peeing in denim shorts, I am hoping to have conversations with people that have asked these same questions, that observe the same sorts of things in our everyday lives, that sometimes claim feminism, sometimes shun feminism. But at the end of the day, we can have a conversation about, is it or not? I have tons of ideas for this season. I am also 100% new to podcasting. So while I have like a vision of what this could look like and what I want to do and the conversations I want to have, what I lack in skill I make up for in vision. I don't actually have skill in podcast making. So we're just see what happens. I hope that you will return to see what judgments my friends and I pass, and just to learn more about this wild and wacky world of feminism. That was a weird thing to say. I apologize. But come back. Okay.